As we go through life, there are times when we don't feel so good about ourselves, and it becomes very difficult to function. One condition can in particular cause this situation, and that is guilt. Guilt can be debilitating, that is, it can incapacitate us if not checked. I know that I don't have to explain the feeling of guilt to you because we've all experienced it. But the source of guilt is worth spending a few minutes to investigate. Guilt comes upon us for many different reasons. Guilt for something you did, for something that you didn't do, for something that you didn't do but need to do, guilt that you didn't do enough to help someone, or guilt can even come upon you because you feel that you're doing better than someone else. These are just some of the catalysts for guilt. Guilt can either motivate you to repair whatever damage caused or trigger resentment and depression. I've come to the conclusion that we are just not built for guilt, and that is the thought for this edition of Practical Assertion. I did some research on Wikipedia and found some interesting perspectives on guilt, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this subject. Alice Miller, a Swiss psychologist and psychoanalyst, claims that many people suffer all their lives from this oppressive feeling of guilt, the sense of not having lived up to their parents' expectations. No argument can overcome these guilt feelings, for they have their beginnings in life's earliest period, and from then, that is where they derive their intensity. This may be linked to what Les Perot has called the disease of false guilt. At the root of false guilt is the idea that what you feel must be true. If you feel guilty, you must be guilty. You did something, whether intentional or unintentional, that hurt someone. Here comes the guilt. Regardless of the reason for the guilt, it is a very uncomfortable feeling. In all of my counseling with people and my own experiences, I have come to the conclusion that God gave us a conscience which causes the guilt for our good. You see, God's intent for us is that we do good to others and to ourselves. For this reason, guilt is upon us to move us to do right. When we allow it, we are better because of it, as are those whom we have wronged. So, when handled correctly, guilt is a beneficial emotion. Unfortunately, as is the case with mankind, we tend to do everything that we can to go around God's order, and we are no different when it comes to guilt. Rather than allow the good, we try our best to get rid of the guilt through several defenses. These defenses against feeling guilt can become an overriding aspect of one's personality. The methods that can be used to avoid guilt are multiple. They include repression, which, according to Merriam-Webster, is a mental process by which distressing thoughts, memories, or impulses that may give rise to anxiety are excluded from consciousness and left to operate in the unconscious. In other words, we make every attempt to disregard the issues and put them way back into our subconscious so that we don't have to deal with them. If this defense fails, then in a return of the repressed, one may begin to feel guilty years later for actions lightly committed at the time. To put it mildly, it will come back to bite you in the end. Excuse the pun. Projection is another defensive tool that might be used. It may take the form of blaming the victim. You might have also heard of this referred to as transference. I did you wrong, but you caused it. This is sometimes seen in relationships with a spouse or love interest after they have been caught cheating, and is communicated as, "You were not there for me." Again, blaming the victim. Sharing a feeling of guilt and thereby being less alone with it is another defensive mechanism. You may have seen this where the guilty party will associate with someone else who is known to be guilty, which in some twisted way makes them feel like it is normal. It may even come across as though they are attempting to show that what they did was not as bad as what he or she did. Self-harm may be used as an alternative to compensating the object of one's transgression, perhaps in the form of not allowing oneself to enjoy opportunities open to them or benefits due as a result of uncompensated guilt feelings. The other side of the coin is that feelings of guilt can prompt subsequent virtuous behavior. In other words, this may be seen where the guilty party goes overboard to repair the damage to the person they wronged or to others in the same group or category. You've no doubt heard individuals of another race or ethnic background bend over backward to show that they love a particular group of people. The bottom line is, no matter how hard we try, no matter what defense mechanism we employ, we are not built for guilt. So what's the message or takeaway from this edition of Practical Assertion? If you are suffering from guilt, analyze the source. If someone else has put their guilt on you, parents, the culprit, or whomever, let them deal with it. Don't allow them to put you on a guilt trip. If, on the other hand, you realize that you have wronged someone, do the right thing, deal with it, and move on with your life. Let me hear from you on this subject. Our contact information is on your screen. Comment on Facebook, Twitter, or on our blog page. And don't forget to share this with everyone you know. And we'll see you next week for another edition of Practical Assertion. Take care.